Hi, I'm Euro,
I'm Chris,
and
and
this
this
is
is
Fork
Fork Bomb.
Bomb. March 27th, 2017, Episode 7, In the Beginning.
So we have a special guest with us again, Erika Barker, who has been my friend since the third grade and has worn many hats from being a graphic artist to a 3D artist to a web developer to military IT girl to currently doing photography for the rich and famous all over the country. Say hello, Erika.
Why, hello. Thank you guys for having me.
Welcome. It's good to have you.
Hey, Erica.
I'm glad to be here.
Great, since we are doing this as an intro about ourselves, I guess we're 7 episodes in, and we haven't really told anybody what we do or how we got into computers or what our first computers were. To begin with, we figured, hey, 7 episodes in, seven's a great number, so we'll do that.
Maybe we should start with where we're at now, currently.
Yeah, great. Okay.
Maybe we should let our special guest go first.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Erica.
All right.
All yours.
Okay, well, I am currently a commercial and advertising / fashion photographer living here in New York City, and lifelong geek. And prior to all of this, I was also in the military, as Chris mentioned. I really wasn't an IT person. I did specialize in that just a little bit, but I was a combat photographer. I had the opportunity to travel around the world and document many historical events, things of intelligence purposes. And that's how I kind of journeyed from being in the military to venturing here in New York and being a photographer today. So is that quick enough? Is that in a nutshell?
Very nice.
Awesome.
All right, awesome.
Euro?
So I've switched many roles in where I currently work now, but now I'm doing the funnest thing that I've done since I started, which is I'm actually a Splunk administrator. And what I don't know if everybody knows what Splunk is, so I'll just explain it real quick. It's basically a log aggregator, and it basically we take big data and then we parse the data, and then we're able to do really fun things like report and visualize it and whatnot. So yeah, we can apply that to anything at all that logs. So that's pretty much anything. So. That's what I'm doing now. Before that, I was working with HP SiteScope. That's a monitoring tool. So I was monitoring all our production servers and applications. So SiteScope can also sign into to various databases, websites, things like that, and perform some rudimentary checks, but it's good enough to be able to tell the engineers whether or not the system is working. So I would set up all that stuff and then set up automatic alerting and whatnot. And then before that, I was working in tech support and level 2 tech support, and I pretty much fixed anything that was thrown at me. So from laptops to desktops to printers, faxes, everything, and I did that for several years too. So yeah, that's a little bit of my career history. Before that, I did a little bit of web development. Found out that wasn't really my thing, and I did some graphic design, but then I got Microsoft certified and did the whole tech thing. So yeah, that's it.
Very nice. So I'm currently a Linux systems administrator / systems engineer, working for just your typical run-of-the-mill software as a service company, running all their stuff on AWS. Before that, I was doing typical IT desktop user how do I start button work. Before that, I was a PHP developer. Before that, I was a Flash developer when people wanted Flash intros on their sites. And somewhere in between there, I did a brief stint as a graphic artist.
I want a Flash intro. A really cool one. A really long, extended one.
This episode will have a Flash intro.
Awesome.
It's going to be 3 minutes long. It's going to be in 4K, and it's going to load up in 2 seconds on a 56K modem.
It has to be in 4K, otherwise Erika won't like it. All right, cool.
Lame, stop having fun. It's not in 4K at 120 frames per second.
That's the only way I want it to render. That's it. Screw everybody else. And it has to have tons of Amigas.
Yes. So now that we've covered where we're at, we thought it would be fun to talk about how we got here. Mainly just as an excuse to wax nostalgic about our first computers.
Erika, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I can definitely talk about my experiences when I started off. Now, there are two particular computers. I know before I was talking to Chris, we were talking about our first computer, but my very first computer wasn't the computer that really drug me in and, made me love computers. But I do want to talk about it because I did learn a lot from it. And that was back in the days, Radio Shack, when Radio Shack was really cool and you would walk into the store and you would have all this amazing nostalgia, robots, amazing toys everywhere. They had this little computer that was hiding in the corner. It was a much better design. It looked much more beautiful than like anything else I can remember on the PC market at the time. And that was the Tandy computers. And the exact model that my parents bought was the 2500 RSX. And if you guys are not familiar with that model, it was basically a 386 processor. I don't even remember how much memory it had on it. I think it had like 8K of video memory, but it came with this unique operating system, which wasn't a true operating system. It was called DeskMate. So while everybody else who was in the PC world, they were using MS-DOS, you were using this unique operating system that would actually say to you when you turned on the computer, "Welcome to DeskMate." And it kind of had this very unique feel. I wish I could show you guys some video of it, but of course this is a podcast. You could do many things on it. It had a spreadsheet, word processor, you could play Hangman, but not enough to really, grab my attention. I couldn't get on the internet with it. Couldn't do anything really enticing, like get onto a BBS system or anything like that. Something that did kind of start getting me into computers was my best friend, who happens to be Chris on this podcast. He got a Packard Bell computer, and he gave me a copy of this game called Stunts. And surprisingly, I could run Stunts on this Tandy, and this was the first time I actually was playing with this computer nonstop. And it got me to playing like a little bit more, trying to understand how DOS worked and how DeskMate worked. And I started taking this computer apart, trying to figure out how the components of it worked. And I remember very distinctly, like if you pull it off, they had a very unique design to where there was a key lock once you pulled the case off, where you couldn't get inside the and see the motherboard or like the disk drive or anything else, because the way Tandy designed it is like, only an IT person can unlock this with their special key in order to see the motherboard and everything. It was kind of unique, but I guess today that wouldn't fly. But eventually, in 1995, my parents bought the successor to that, and that was the IBM Aptiva. And the exact model that I had was the IBM Aptiva M50. That was a Pentium 100 megahertz processor. Came with 8 megs of RAM. And oh my God, it also came with a 15-inch monitor. And at that time, this was as good as it got. It was the top-notch computer. It came with Windows 3.11. I remember at that time I was a little upset because Windows 95 just came out, and I just happened to miss it. But there was something completely breathtaking at that time when you looked at computers. Like it seemed like when you walked in Sam's Club or one of these computer stores and you just saw full screen video happening and 16-bit games being displayed on this. It just completely blew your mind. And oh my God, now you can put your CDs in here. You can play CDs with visualizers, and you're seeing all these trippy, amazing effects. Yeah, it was just completely breathtaking. And what really got me hooked into it was, oh, hey, now I can get on the internet. So, of course, America Online was my first venture onto the internet. And, of course, getting talking with other people around the world. At this time, this was completely breathtaking. Like, oh, my God, I'm in Florida, and I'm able to talk to somebody in Alaska. Like, it's no big deal. And eventually from there, I started venturing out into the internet, wondering how the internet works. Now, when I first started, I was playing around with Gopher. And it was very interesting. If you guys don't know what Gopher is, I'm sure Chris and Euro, you can explain it. Chris, you could probably do a better job explaining what Gopher is. Do you want to explain it?
Gopher was a protocol that was a text-based way to look around the internet and find stuff before we had the web, and the web superseded it.
Can't wait to do an episode on that.
Yeah, that one is definitely on the list.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to bring it up.
So, hold that thought. You were AOL, then at Gopher. Euro, how did it all begin for you?
It all began with an IBM XT. So the year was 1990, and my dad gave me a machine that was already pretty old because the XT came out in '83, but he didn't want to really throw it away, and he thought I'd get smart by just having it in my room, and I was scared to touch it for a while. It probably took a whole year for me to even want to do anything with it. But my dad gave me some games, and one game that I remember fondly is called Eagle's Nest. So I remember Eagle's Nest running on my IBM XT. It was that had the 8088 processor, so that was 4 megahertz with 128 kilobytes of RAM. And but I didn't care. It ran Eagle's Nest, and that's all I cared about. Eagle's Nest, and then an Alley Cat. And F-19, that's right, F-19. So those were my the three games that I played all the time, and I thought, okay, my IBM XT is probably better than my Nintendo. I wasn't sure at that point, but yeah, that was my first machine. I don't know. I've upgraded a lot since then. I don't know. Where do you want me to go after that one, Chris? I mean,
I don't know. I guess go through. You've had a lot more. Maybe go through 2 or 3 more.
Yeah. Well, so I didn't, like Erika said, I didn't really, fall in love with computers or anything like that during that time. XT was pretty simple. I couldn't really do a whole lot with it. Eagle's Nest was fun, but still, it was when I got. Well, no, I upgraded. My dad upgraded. He always did all the upgrades, and I would get all the hand-me-downs. So I got a 286 12 megahertz, 4 megabytes of RAM, and that was okay. But I was able to play VGA games because it had a VGA card, and I was playing Star Trek 25th Anniversary
nice.
on that 286. Yeah.
Oh. Sexy.
Yes. It was a fantastic game. Point and click. I think at some point I got stuck and I needed the hint book, But and this was back then when you didn't go on the internet. You went to the store like Babbage's or EB Games or whatever, and actually bought the hint book um, to finish it. I didn't actually get into computers until the third machine I got, and my grandmother actually bought it for me at a place in Texas, which I always mispronounce, so I might mispronounce it again. So I think it's called Liuski's or Lewiski's, or I have no idea. But I don't even think they're around anymore. They had a brand called Magictronic. And so my grandmother brought me a Magictronic computer. It had an Intel 486SX processor that was 33 megahertz and 8 megabytes of RAM. And that's when I really started liking computers. That's when I learned mostly DOS at the time. I actually hated Windows. I thought, because see, most of my I guess my computing was done through games. So I learned how to install games. I learned how to set up the sound card and everything. I even learned how to install DOS because of games. I would crash my system, and I don't know, a virus would get uploaded to it, and uploaded, right, like the internet was there. I would somehow get a virus on the machine. I learned how to copy disks and all that stuff, all on my own, but it all centered around games. So the 486 SX was the one that really, I want to say that was the machine that I really started to love computers, and I knew that I wanted to do that I wanted to have a career in computers. Even back then, I knew that whatever it is that I was going to do in life had to do with computers. So the 486 SX was a really big thing for me. Windows 3.1 had a bunch of crappy games. I remember Ski Free was I hated it. Minesweeper was okay. Solitaire. Those were the games that I saw for Windows back then. And then in DOS, I'm over here playing, was it Wolfenstein 3D and Catacombs and Commander Keen. So forget it. DOS was it. Windows sucked. So
nice.
Yeah. I don't know. I've had a bunch of other computers since then, but where do you want to go from here, Chris?
So we're up to the point where you and Erika fell in love. So with computing, not with each other, with computing. So I'll talk up to that point myself. You actually got an earlier start than I did, Euro. My first computer was I got my first computer in 1993. I think it came from Montgomery Ward. I think they used to sell computers. That or Sears. It was a 1993 Packard Bell 486 DX2 66 megahertz. One of the pizza box desktops with 4 megabytes of RAM and a 120 megabyte hard drive.
Did the monitor have the speakers on the side?
It did have the speakers.
Yes.
And it came running Windows 3.11. And really, my first experience to computing was with Windows 3.11. And honestly, I was curious and in love with computing immediately. I was amazed that we were going to have a CD-ROM drive. I thought I was living in the future. I loved Ski Free. I was terrified of that stick-drawn abominable snow monster. I never knew back then that hitting F would make me speed up and get away from him. So for me, he spelled certain doom. But I think that my all-time favorite game on that machine was Mega Race. And that was a futuristic racing game. Had a video intro with this smarmy asshole of a guy called Lance Boyle. Who would berate you, or it was awesome. And I fell even more in love with computing when my best friend Erika got her IBM Aptiva with an Intel Pentium processor that stomped the loving crap out of my 486, and I was jealous and envious beyond all belief. So somewhere in between there, my dad also let me have a 486 that I had in my room, so that was truly my first computer to play around with. the first one that I could tinker around without fear of messing things up. And that's what really got me into wanting to play and tinker and modify and do things with. So what about you, Erika? You left off on your Aptiva, which I'm still jealous of, by the way. And you were talking about you started getting onto the internet and into Gopher. So where did your computing journey take you from there?
Well, I was really curious about like the web. And, to me, it's like people who made websites. Back then, it was like people would try to make their websites look like interfaces. And I remember my first website was, believe it or not, I actually got kicked off of AOL for violating their terms of service because I was cursing in some Christian chat room or something. And then we got a different internet service provider. It was a local internet service provider by the name of Praxis Information Group, which is now known today as Mid-Florida Internet. But I got on and I made this site called AOL Sucks or something like that. Like I forget the exact name of it. And I tried to reduplicate, like make my own version of AOL through a website. I had like all the icons and everything. And I did this all with AOL software called AOL Press. That was my very, very first website. And then I decided to make a website dedicated to Chris. So I made him like this collective soul Chris's fan page. and from there, like I started tinkering more around with it. And the Nintendo 64 came out around this time, and I became a very big fan. And I decided to create a website called N64 3D. And I started to get this nice following. It just had reviews, cheat codes, everything. And there was these other N64 websites, and I'm a very competitive person by nature. And I'm like, no, I've got to have the best, absolutely the best, as our president would say, Nintendo 64 website out there. And I was competing with IGN when IGN was nobody. Their site was just as big as mine at the time. And wow, I should have stayed doing what I was doing. Anyways, yeah, that's how I got into web design. Was just pretty much just tinkering around and just being curious and just interacting with other people and loving that interaction. People emailing me, asking me questions, telling me how great my website is. That was really, really freaking cool. So I'll leave you guys off for the next part of this, but that was my big venture into becoming a graphic designer and an artist who I am today.
Erika, do you ever use GeoCities?
GeoCities was a big thing, and there was also Angel Fire and Tripod.
Yes.
Those were like the big three. But no, I never actually did use GeoCities. A Praxis Information Group, they allowed you to have like this website like allocation for your username. My actual username was N64. That was like my username to log into my 56K service, or I think at the time it was like 34.4K, whatever. I don't remember. 32.8, or I forget the exact number. But yeah, I was creating my website through there. And then eventually I got my own hosting and I got my own domain. And back then, to buy a domain, my N64 3D domain costed me $70.
Wow.
Whoa.
N64 3D.com.
Wow. Does it exist?
Yeah.
Does it still exist today?
And this is when you were a teenager.
I still own it.
That's great.
And I've left it with the last design. I need to go in and like fix it because a lot of the pages are broken. But yes, it still survives till today.
And this is when you were a teenager, so $70,
yes.
That was a chunk of change.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially like when I was making $5.75 an hour, where the minimum wage was back then. Uh-huh. And that wasn't full time either. That was like after school, you work 5 hours here, 5 hours there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a couple of weeks paychecks right there.
That's dedication.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm in it right now, and it definitely looks retro-ish, but I like it. It's good. I
I
like the
think that
design.
the last design I left off, I think that was in 2000. That
Uh-huh.
was like when I just left it. Unfortunately, I was too busy with college,
Sure.
and my ambitions started to change. I was more interested in starting a web design firm with my buddy Chris and being a rock star, because back then, like web design, there was companies like Kyokan, Too Advanced. And these designers were like rock stars. There were celebrities. Joshua Davis, who was like the rock star of Macromedia Flash. Yes, notice I called it Macromedia. And yeah, we just kind of wanted that rock star status. And I was really, really into it at the time. But I'll save that for our next bit.
I remember Too Advanced. I love their graphics on their site. They're amazing.
Yeah, that was very, very inspiring. Those guys really set a footprint
Yeah.
for who I am today as a designer.
So how about you, Euro? You've had your first few computers. You joined the PC gaming master race early on. So how did you? Where did it go from there?
Yeah, pretty early on. I was there, man. I guess not way before the internet or the World Wide Web, but I was there pretty early on. Uh, Gaming and stuff. After that, actually, on the machine that we upgraded, my dad bought me a chip called the Intel Overdrive. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Oh my gosh, I haven't heard that name in ages. I
Yep.
forgot about those.
Yep. So my dad bought me an Intel Overdrive. What is it? 486 DX4 100 chip. So I put that on my board. My board had a socket for. So my 46SX33 chip was soldered onto the motherboard, but it had this big area there where you could put in another chip. And so essentially I had two processors, but one became disabled when you put in a processor into that slot. Anyway, so my dad bought me one of those for DX4 100, and actually I had the option to choose the DX4 100 or a Pentium 83 megahertz overdrive, and I was like, well, why would I want 83 megahertz when I can have 100 megahertz for the same price? But yeah, one was a Pentium, 586, and the other one was a 486, and whatever. I was a kid and I didn't know, so I knew more was better, and so I got the 100 megahertz instead, and then let's see, uh, I was mowing my neighbor's yard to be able to afford the internet because my parents refused to get the internet. They said they've watched Unsolved Mysteries and stuff, and that people would go missing because they've used the internet. So they put the internet at that level where if you immediately use it, that's it. You go missing. So I was mowing my neighbor's yard, and after a few weeks or whatever, I was able to afford this pretty cheap service. This was back when I lived in Texas. It's called FlashNet. So it didn't have any portals or anything like that. All it was you just configured your TCP settings in Windows, your modem settings, and you just double click the icon, your shortcut that you would set up. It would dial out to whatever server FlashNet had available to log into, and then that's it. And then you would start Internet Explorer. You would already have internet connection. So my browser, my first browser was probably IE. I wanted to say 2.0, but 3.0 was probably it. I think 2.0 was too early. It had the one with the Windows logo that would fly and the clouds would be in the background flying. That was the Internet Explorer that I used before that big blue E. So yeah, and I had my website too. Totally not like Erica's. Mine completely sucked. I was obsessed.
Oh,
Yeah, mine was terrible. Mine was on GeoCities using their tools. So I didn't know anything. So I would just drag and drop stuff. And so I had a bunch of spinning GIFs and
Yes.
yeah. And my website, of course, I was trying to be cool, so I wanted to have the Made for Internet Explorer logo in the bottom. So yeah, mine was one of those. I had that. I had the counter that you could see how many people had been to your site, and so I was obsessed with Wing Commander back then, and so I started the Wing Commander Cafe, and I had a chat room too, which I totally did not build. All I did was I took the module from, I forgot, I think it was iChat or something, and I stuck it on my site. I think it was all ran by Java or something, some early version of Java too. Yeah, a bunch of spinning gifs and a lot of movie quotes and stuff. Game quotes and screenshots. So that was my world.
Hero.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm curious, going back to you mowing the lawn, how
Yeah.
much did you pay for internet back then?
So I think it was something like $9.99 a month for FlashNet.
Oh,
Yeah. AOL I
wow.
think was $19.99, and
Well, I was doing,
mhm.
we were doing the hours. Like back then it was the hours. And my first AOL bill was $89 and literally freaked my parents out.
Yeah. Um, I don't know what to say. Yeah, I bet. I bet. My parents would have killed me too. Um,
Yeah.
they, I would only use it at night too, so they could use the phone during the day. I remember playing, I think it was Descent with a buddy of mine, during the day, and my parents would try to use the phone, and they of course would hear that sound. So they thought that something was wrong with the phone line, and so they called the phone the phone company and all that stuff. And yeah, so that was interesting. I never told them that
Wow.
that's what I was doing, was playing games online. But yeah, actually, you know what, Erica? That reminds me. And now I'm going all over the place, but whatever. That reminds me of when I was using bulletin boards back then. I would rack up the phone bill because I didn't know that you had to pay for long distance connections. So I would just,
Oh.
yep,
Wow.
I would just dial out to Colorado or whatever, and there I was. So all right, getting the latest games and all that on the bulletin boards, and I didn't know that my parents had to pay for that until I hear my dad downstairs. You know, the phone company's ripping us off. So.
And then you had that horrible sinking feeling in your stomach when you realized what happened.
Yeah, I figured that could have been probably me doing that, because then my dad's like, I don't understand all these calls. Colorado, I never call there, and yeah, I did. Yeah, so Colorado, Houston. Well, we lived in Houston. Yeah, I don't know, everywhere, California and all that. So yeah, that was my venture into the internet. So
And you never disappeared.
never disappeared, still here.
You are one of the lucky few. So,
How about you, Chris?
so for me, it was just fell in love with computing. 486, DX266. We actually had the DX4 100 upgrade eventually when we upgraded to Windows 95, and there was the extra 4 megabytes of RAM that we got for $200, so my sister and I could play the Lion King PC CD-ROM game. Well worth the investment, if you ask me. And
I had it. It came with a mouse pad that I
yes,
I think I still have. It's a Mufasa
oh
mouse pad.
wow.
Yeah.
But as far as moving forward in online services, I think the first online service we had was Prodigy, and that was very text based at the time. I didn't really get into that, and then after that we had CompuServe, and my dad was the one who was playing around with those. But then I remember one of my middle school teachers, or maybe early high school teachers, somewhere in there, uh, she was telling me about how great AOL was and how she really enjoyed it. And Dad wasn't happy with CompuServe at the time, and so I brought that up to him, and we went and got on that. And that was where I really started getting into um, looking around at online services. I was all over AOL, chatting, finding games. Um, it was really fun back then, and I think that was were when they were still charging by the hour. And there were a couple of modem speed upgrades in there. I think we went 2400. Then when we went to 14.4, that was a huge night and day difference. I thought it can never get any better than this. I mean, those JPEGs slowly loaded so fast. After that, I think we had mid-Florida internet when back in the age of mom and pop ISPs. And then the real turning point came when my mom got a job with an RV company, and she's not exactly, back then she wasn't very tech savvy, and suddenly she has a job making web pages with this program called Hot Dog, which was an early web page site creator tool. And she comes home with 21 floppy disk that contained a copy of Photoshop 3.0. And once that was installed and I saw what inner bevel could do to a piece of text, it blew my little mind. I thought, I went from, the computer is a cool toy to, I'm a wizard. I can do anything. I can bend worlds. And then I passed off that copy of Photoshop to my good buddy Erika, which I'm sure she'll shortly tell us what she did with that and where that went to. And really, between there and when I got my act together is kind of a blur. I mean, there were DOS games. I remember getting into Heretic was a big turning point. That was my first quasi 3D game that I really enjoyed. Oh, and I remember being in middle school and installing Wolfenstein 3D on the IBM PS2s that we had in our typing lab, and I carried that disc with me everywhere. I installed it on every single computer I got my hands on. I was always playing Wolfenstein.
Did it run well on those machines?
Yeah, it did. I mean, you have to shrink the screen size a little bit, but yeah, It ran well. We would use the PC speaker for sound, but back then I thought it was great.
So I have a short story about Wolfenstein 3D. I actually played it so much that and I played it. I think it was one time it was 8 or 10 hours straight, and then I felt really sick. I couldn't stop throwing up and everything, and my parents took me to the hospital. They didn't know what was going on. Yep, and then I realized that, or not me, the doctor, and then which told my parents and told myself that I apparently am very sensitive to like motion sickness stuff. So
I feel your pain.
Yeah. I can't do Wolfenstein 3D. There's something about the gun not moving, but the floor moving and the ceiling moving. I don't know, but it just does something to me where I can't deal with it. And that was my first game where I would throw up because of that. And now I have to take a pill before I play anything like that again.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I'm in the same boat as you.
Yeah. I don't know. Doom was much better. I think it's the way that the Doom scrolls, the gun moves side to side. I don't know if it has to do something with that and the frames per second, but with Doom I never got sick. But Wolfenstein, absolutely.
Huh.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
Good story. So, aside from that, that was really my first exposure to the internet and inkling of what I wanted to do. That really got me into playing with making graphics and starting to make basic rudimentary websites. But kind of stagnated a bit until college time came around, and I'll talk about that on the next go around. What about you, Erika?
Well, I feel like I've been talking and being a little bit of a narcissist here when I was explaining earlier. I need to emphasize how important my best friend, Chris Jones, is to who I am today. and his mom getting that job at that RV company, I never really started to become a content creator, and I would have never became a content creator. I think I was interested in either becoming a psychologist or maybe a computer programmer. But when Chris gave me that program, the first thing he showed me was Interbevel, of course. And that was through, I think it was iCandy. That was the name of the plugin software. Alien Skin. Yeah, it was Alien Skin. And oh my God, it blew my mind. And the first thing I did was I took the N64 logo in to Photoshop, and I did a twirl. And I interbeveled it. It looks like absolutely terrible by today's standards. But I was like, oh my God, I'm a god amongst mortals. And I felt amazing. And I started, back in those days, the bubble jet printers by Canon were a huge hit. It's like, oh my God, you could print like photorealism things on like out of your computer. This is amazing. So anytime I had homework, I would go and like create this cool little graphic as a cover page. And then I would put it like on top of my homework. And my homework would be kind of half-assed, but just hoping that the teacher would be like, wow, look at these amazing graphics. This is amazing. I'm not going to pay attention to anything else because this is really cool. And it didn't really work, but I was kind of proud of my my workmanship there. But if it wasn't for my best friend here, I'm not sure what I would be doing today. Thank goodness that his mom got a job at that RV company. But moving on, so we both go to college. Chris ends up going to a local community college in our hometown. And I decided to go to Fort Lauderdale to the Art Institute, which I really wasn't a big fan of. I only did one semester there and I dropped out. And from there, I went to Full Sail in Orlando, Florida. And I think I just jumped ahead of myself and I forgot to tell a critical part. Can we come back to these college days in just a moment?
Yeah.
So we're leaving off here. I forgot that. Remember the Praxis Information Group that turned into Mid-Florida Internet?
Yes.
Okay, so I was featured in a newspaper, our local newspaper. I somehow made the front page because I happened to meet Jeb Bush at a restaurant that I was working at. He was going around and trying to help his brother. He was trying to get donations for his brother, and he came to the Villages, small community, retirement community in Central Florida. And yeah, somehow I'm talking to him, and next thing you know, I become a front page story on our local newspaper. It says, "Look out, Bill Gates, web weaver." And it made me look like a complete rock star. And I feel kind of dumb looking at it now because I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally did not live up to those expectations. But oh well, at least I'm comfortable and happy. So that company, the internet company that I was using, they decided to hire me as a web designer. Now, keep in mind, I'm an arrogant, stupid kid who painted my car purple, put 2 12s in the back of it. I'm just completely obnoxious. I have no fashion sense whatsoever. And I was just on the front page of a newspaper, so completely egotistical, arrogant, and I wish I can go back in time and just slap the crap out of myself, but just deal with it. Anyways, I started working for this company, and I told them like, oh yeah, I use AOL Press, and they laughed at me. It's like, wow, you don't use that, or we will slap the crap out of you. And my file organization, file management was terrible. I was like throwing everything from a website. Like I put everything in a root directory. There was no subfolders or anything. It was like god awful design. And even in Photoshop, there was like no organization. I was like naming my files like, graphic 1, graphic 2, graphic 3. And I didn't know that you could save PSDs, like layered files. Every time I created a graphic, I would always save it. I would flatten the image and then export it as a JPEG, but I wouldn't have this saved PSD. I didn't know any better because I kind of just guerrilla taught myself Photoshop. I never had any training or anything like that. So I had this opportunity to be in this office environment, and thank goodness, because I was surrounded by like all these smart IT people who've been in the industry for years and years and years, and they probably laugh at our experience because they're like, oh, well, the first computer I had to punch a punch card, and just like I had to create electricity, and I had to create fire. And I'm like, wow, that's a pretty hardcore, dude. But anyways, these guys mentored me and taught me a lot, and thank goodness for that, because that laid a lot of the groundwork and foundation for the designer that I would become. God forbid I never had like the organization skills and learned like how to actually build a website. I didn't even know what program, like what server-side scripts were and how JavaScript worked. And they taught me, and they mentored me, and they kept on like molding me. And I worked there in high school. I was working in high school. I went from minimum wage to earning $10 an hour. I was balling. That was how I was able to paint my car purple and afford my 212s in the back and like completely be this very, very obnoxious high school kid. But eventually, of course, we went to college, and I want to bring Chris back into the mix. Like Chris and myself, we were always trying to do something. We at one point watched Pirates of Silicon Valley.
Yes.
That special at TNT.
Yes.
Oh my God, dude. I was so freaking motivated. I was like,
too.
dude, oh my God.
Yes.
This is us. I'm like sitting here looking at Chris. I'm like, dude, this is us. This is our time. This is our moment. We're the next Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. We're going to build a company. And we came out with this idea to build this operating system called Wisdom. Both of us had no idea how to program. Like, how we don't even know how operating systems work, so we just talked about it, and we kept on talking about it. But every time we did these meetings, like we would do this thing, net meeting, with these little Intel webcams, which were terrible at the time. And we'd talk about these ideas, like, yeah, dude, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. And we just never got around to it. We just kept on goofing off and doing every other things. And then later on, when I was at Full Sail, we started playing around with different operating systems. I was playing around with Mandrake Linux, and I showed Chris, and this was his first time doing it. That was a surprise. Like, he played around with it, and it's like, oh man, it's really cool. And the interface was really cool. And I had no idea at that time that, this would be the rest of his career, and this would be his love and his passion. Hopefully it still is. And I'm not going to have to stick my foot in my mouth later on. But yeah, we used to do all these things. We used to do these things called boot camps, where we would stay up for like 3 nights in a row trying to learn like Macromedia Flash and become these rock star web designers, or these
So much
the next Pirates of Silicon. So, yeah, we were just like, eating this stuff up. We were so excited. It was so much energy at that time. I kind of miss it. It seems like the older I get, the more dull, less energy, and the more settled I want to become. But man, the energy we had back then was absolutely amazing. And I'm going to cut myself off right there because I've been talking for a while. So Euro, how about you?
All right. Well, so Pirates of Silicon Valley also motivated me a ton. I wanted to also make my own OS. But I didn't really have anybody to talk to about it, because during that time that they played that movie, we had just moved from Texas to Florida, and I kind of left my friends behind and everything. And I only have really one friend that was into computers back then, and so he moved to Arizona, and well, the distance thing and everything. So I did want to start my own OS back then. I think I wanted to call it Euros or something, with an S at the end, so like Euros. I don't know, but
that's
anyway.
A cool name.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
Didn't. I think it was something like I wanted to have the core OS would be the back end that would just kind of do all the input outputs and everything, but the GUI was completely customizable by anybody who knew Flash, because I thought Flash was the future back then. So the GUI would be a separate component from the OS. So that's the way I had envisioned it. And so the back end was going to be called Core, or EuroOS Core or something. I don't know.
I remember you talking about this.
Yeah, it was the Core OS was the kernel, and then the front end, I forgot what that was going to be called. But yeah, that was my idea back in the day. And well, I didn't really know anybody that would be able to code, and I didn't know how to code anything but in BASIC. So actually Visual Basic at the time. So and my coding was terrible. I was making like word processors or something, and so yeah, that never came to be. That was totally not where I wanted to go. Um, I wanted to. I actually after I found out about the internet and everything, shortly after we moved to Florida. I met a friend of mine who was my friend for a while until he passed, Greg. I was we met in chemistry class, and I we just happened to be sitting together, and he gave me his card. And what kid in high school in like 10th grade would give you their card, And he had a website, and he's like, "Go to my website. It's good. I do movie reviews." So, okay. So I went on to I think it was a GeoCities website. So I recognized the GeoCities on there. I'm like, "Yes, my home." And his was called Movie Rave, and he would go and review websites. I'm sorry, movies. And he would give it. I remember, instead of being thumbs up, he would give it Zippos up, like the Zippo lighter. And so,
Nice.
yeah, he would. And I think the that it would go from one Zippo to five Zippos being the best. And he would talk about it and review the movies and everything. And what amazed me was that his skills were better than mine. I didn't really care much about reviewing movies or anything like that, but his website totally looked better than mine. And I was like, wow, this guy knows. He's I'm not as talented as he is. His website is totally better. So I proposed to him that I would make his graphics if he would be like the designer, and then we would have multiple sections on the site. It wouldn't just be movies. We would also review like music, CD albums and stuff like that. So from then I started actually learning Photoshop, doing the bezel thing and all that cool stuff. I would put shadows on everything, and I was doing the graphics for Greg's site, and actually this actually goes into another venture that we did. We decided to that Movie Rave was cool, but we wanted to get into some other stuff, so we kind of got into some questionable parts of internet and wares and all that stuff, which hey, we were kids, back then. We didn't know. So
You were borrowing.
I was borrowing, absolutely. So we didn't know. We were just some poor kids in high school, and had no idea what was going on. But we definitely liked Napster, and we thought that sharing stuff on just Napster wasn't fair, because what if you weren't sharing the song at the time? Then you needed to find it somewhere else. So we decided to also share the song on our site, and we had that, and we had our forum where people would request songs, and then people were requesting kind of it was kind of popular. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was popular enough to where in our high school people knew about it. And some people online, because we were on Excite and Alta Vista back then. What is it? Another one that we were on, Lycos and all that, Yahoo. Um, so where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So we borrowed one of the software to make a like a professional looking form. This was before PHP, or before Greg and I got into PHP. And so we were kind of using a form, and the form company found out, and they sent us a cease and desist letter. And so we freaked out and totally took our site down, because we thought the Men in Black were going to come. And then I think Greg stayed up all night reading up on something called, I think he called it Shittimal, but I think what he meant to say was SHTML. And then later on, he started coding in Python, and then he built our first form, which was awesome, because we didn't have to use anybody's code. And so we had that. We had the form going with the people doing the requests and everything, and then Napster was shut down, and we felt like, oh, okay, well, I guess they're going after people now, and being too scared kids in high school, we just kind of decided to maybe we should just do something else. So we decided to start another site, which was, I kind of wish we had stayed that course, because our idea was to make an online dating site that you would have to input your school name, and you would be matched up with people in your class and everything. So it was a lot like Facebook back then. You had to put in your school name, you had to be affiliated to a school, you create your profile and everything. And we called that site hotcollegedate.com. And we had the template and everything ready. We stayed up, man, I forgot how many nights figuring this whole thing out. And then, I don't know, I think Greg just didn't like it or something. And then we were like, we'd rather just play games. And this will never get anywhere, And then a few years later, Facebook came out, but whatever. So, that was my experience with, in this was high school, before college, because actually, Chris, I met you in my later
College.
like my second half of college. Yeah, in my 4 years. So, yeah, I don't know if you want me to go into that, but
So I guess I'll pick up from here, and I can go a little bit into that from my side as well. So you covered on Napster. That happened. That was incredible to me. We would just leave our computer just downloading overnight. I think that the computer we had before I got into college was I forget what it was. I know it was a Pentium 2 233. I forget the exact specs on it. That one didn't really stick in my mind.
I was jealous of that machine, by the way.
It was a pretty awesome machine. I think I got the Packard Bell. I think that was handed down to me. And really, though, that just became ho-hum. Photoshop happened. Got into that. But I wasn't very studious. I wasn't very passionate. You, Erika, really just kind of pulled me along there for a while. Gave me something to keep striving for, because really I wasn't very motivated until I got scared of, oh wow, I'm out of high school now. Maybe I should get my act together. Thankfully, I started kind of doing that during my senior year, and scraped together enough of a GPA to get into a community college. But oh no, something did happen when I was 16. I made my first website for money. And it was for a friend of the family. She is a real estate agent, and I made her a real estate website. And got started with that, made my first design, showed it to you, Erika, and you gave me an honest critique of it. And like
I remember.
a poor, spoiled child, I took it to heart and thought you were completely wrong, and it was awesome, and thought about it, ate a piece of humble pie, came back to it, started over, and made something way better that I still have a copy of, and that I'm actually kind of proud of today. But then we went to Mid-Florida Internet because she needed a database, and I knew nothing about databases. All I knew was how to do HTML in Dreamweaver and kind of make it work in both Netscape and Internet Explorer. So we went there. They gave us they made an Access database that she could put her listings into that she paid $1,500 for. And I made the front end for it and the design for it. And then college happened. It was kind of, maybe I want to do music, maybe I want to keep doing this computer thing. And then you, Erika, at some point said, well, you've got to pick a technology. So I went and I bought a Friends of Ed flash book, studied it front to back during my first 2 years of college, and learned as much as I could about Flash. Before that, you and I did that Macromedia Director Bootcamp, and that was so much fun. I still remember doing that. I also remember how terribly tired and exhausted I was, but it was still fun. So then got into Flash, and that was the first thing that really stuck. And then after community college, went to UCF in Orlando, and you, Erika, you always just you were always a good motivational pull, but I never had a really good, I guess you could say, a good push, because a pull, if you stay attached, you can just get kind of dragged along, and I've never had your passion. So thank you for just keeping me going along even when I wanted to give up. But to get a push, something to really get me moving, I met this guy in UCF, and this guy one day said, I keep going through single semester friends, and we hang out, and then the semester ends, and then you're not friends anymore. And this guy was you, Euro, and you had that passion that gave me a real push, some form of self-sustaining motivation. You were so incredibly into what you were doing. I remember you saying, "My brain is a hard drive. It's like the Matrix. My eyeballs, they see ones and zeros." You were that always stuck with me. As silly as it is looking back, it gave me that little bit of extra push that I needed to get through college. You, Erika, showing me Mandrake for the first time, I remember my dad asking, what would anybody do with a free operating system? Neither of us knowing, everything's going to be running on it in about 10 to 20 years. But I just thought it was fun. Didn't know why. Just, it was fun. Free operating system, why not? So then, in my junior year of college, I was playing around a lot with Flash. I was really into Flash, just eating it up. Made this crappy little demo website, found a company in Orlando called Cloud Space. And part of this was also computers that we were using. That was when I got into Apple computers, OS X 10.2 Jaguar, and I became the most annoying, insufferable Apple zealot. To this day, I am still ashamed of it. I would have punched myself right in the teeth, knocked a few of them out just to get myself to shut up about how great Apple was.
And that's when I
believe
Chris.
One time my dad said, "Son, I am going to kick that soapbox out from underneath you."
That's when I met Chris. I met Chris when he could have been like some sort of Mac priest or something. Yeah, it was that bad.
I was hardcore, but he was really hardcore.
Yeah.
Probably lost a few friends during that time. Thanks you two for sticking with me. Then went into Cloud Space, and from there, something just relentlessly said, "Hey guys, I want a job. Hey guys, I want a job. Hey guys, I want a job. Can I have a job now? Hey guys. I said, "Fine, you can have a job. Come and do Flash." Then I learned about how to code better. I learned, this is what functions are and stuff like that. I then eventually got into PHP and databases and into a career of web development that lasted for 8 years. And I'll stop there for now.
Wow. Whose turn is it?
I do believe it is Erika's.
Okay, so Chris and myself, we end up graduating school. I graduate school because I just got my associate's degree, and Chris, he gets his bachelor's degree at the time. And we eventually become roommates. And something I have to say about Chris is Chris was super focused, and he ended up becoming way more talented than I was, and I'd say probably much more talented than I am today with computers. And it was around this time that I discovered that, okay, I'm obviously a creative. I don't have the mental capacity to become somebody who can learn a programming language. I tried and tried and tried. I can never really understand the ins and outs of ActionScript 1.0, ActionScript 2.0, understanding how JavaScript works or anything. I just didn't have the attention span for it. I would just get bored. And something I found myself doing was floating around from thing to thing. I was doing one thing over here. Next thing you know, I was producing music, learning how like Reason works. Another thing I'm doing is I'm getting into being a DJ. I'm just like all over the place, picking up photography. And I just couldn't stay focused at this time. And that was probably something that gave me a very hard time when I graduated school. And Chris, he went a very disciplined direction. Something I say about Chris is he's probably one of the most disciplined people out there when it comes to something that he's very, very passionate about. And
I agree.
I wish I had that level of discipline even till today. Even when he was a young 22, 21-year-old, man, just the discipline coming out of him is amazing. I went through the military, for goodness sake, and I still don't have anywhere near the amount of discipline and focus that he has. And that's something I've always been jealous about him. But eventually, we do become roommates. My college was close to his college, so we moved into this place right off of Goldenrod, Florida, in Winter Park. And oh man, it was we had an amazing time. We used to stay up late. We used to goof off and like just playing around with our machines. And then we decided, hey, we should do this like something real together. All right, we're not going to make an operating system. Obviously, I don't have the capability or knowledge, and that's just like really, really intense. But what we can do is we can start like one of these web design companies and be like the next Too Advanced or the next like Joshua Davis and be like this super mega celebrity. And then we'll be writing books for like Friends of Ed. We're going to be like rock stars, dude. And we're going to be charging people like $40,000 for our website. So we came out with this company called Imaginer Studios, and it was actually legit. Like we actually had an LLC for it, and all that cool jazz. And one of the problems that we had was, well, actually, I'll talk about the problem later. We kept on revising it. And eventually, like the final version that we came out with was amazing, and it was a little bit cutting edge. Compared to what everybody else was doing. We had this custom audio mixer that Chris programmed himself. I came out with the ratio, and I came out with like the music for it, which was basically you're just holding down like a couple of keys on the keyboard, and you get this cool sounding like wave synth. It was really, really pretty neat. We had a really good time doing it. We would always create the next version. I think I was coming out with the next version of Imaginer Studios like every 4 months. I would just revamp it, coming out with different graphics, trying to get better and better and better. And that was kind of like one of my downfalls to not being successful as a freelancer was I was just so focused on having the best looking website as a web design firm that I really didn't focus on other clients. And then when we did get clients, I wasn't fast enough because I would sometimes put our Imagine Studios ahead of their needs. And that was like a big no-no when it comes to web design. And, we did get some pretty bad clients as well. And it was during this time, like I started losing my passion for web design. And I just had all of a sudden, like, ActionScript 2.0 comes out and everything's just completely different. Flash is completely different, and the standards are starting to rapidly change. And oh man, I just couldn't stand it. Now, Chris, on the other hand, he was learning server-side scripting and JavaScript stuff that was not changing. But on my end, as a interface designer, everything was changing, and it was just driving me crazy. And it got to the point where I couldn't hold a job because I was a little bit arrogant and egotistical. And, I couldn't keep up. I just couldn't keep up. And that was one of the reasons why I joined the military was I couldn't have any focus. And I wanted to get this focus that Chris had. I wanted to be more disciplined like Chris. I wanted to be a much better designer. I wanted to be this rock star, but it seems like around this time, like I just could not get a hold of myself. So in the military, I started picking up photography a lot more and taking a lot more photographs. And from this point on, I get very, very passionate about just being a graphic designer. Screw the web. I'm not doing any more of that coding anymore. I'm going to just be a graphic designer. I'm going to do compositing. I'm going to do photography. I'm going to do cool little multimedia projects here and there. And that's kind of what stuck with me. That's what I'm still doing till today is, a lot of photography, compositing, creating what they call Photoshop manipulations, where you shoot a model, you match the lighting, you create a background with like 50 different objects. And that's what I kind of stuck with. But I think like a lot of the hardships I had, and Chris used to get on to me all the time about this too, and I wish I was a little bit more humble back then. A lot of the hardships I had helped me find my path, and Chris was one of those people who helped keep me on track. But anyways, I'm going to stop myself right there and let Euro continue on with his story.
Uh, well, I guess I guess this is the point. I suppose when I meet you, Chris, and because I went to college, and my buddy Greg was in high school, but we still talked and everything, and then my buddy Greg went to UCF. I stayed in my community college, and then once I graduated from there, and during that time I was just playing games and coming up with different ideas on our website. Like I told you about the hot college date and all that stuff, and after that died, we didn't really have anything else going on, just playing games, and that was mostly it. I was really into hardware at that time, so I was constantly upgrading my machine, and I was joining all these forums online that would talk about hardware and all that stuff. So during that time, and not a whole lot happened as far as any progress in computers is concerned until I went to UCF where Greg was, and then we met a guy that was starting a website called UCF Life, and he said he needed some help, and it was basically some sort of it was like a website for people to go to see what events are going on around UCF, see what the students were up to and everything. And he had apparently some sponsorship from the university itself. So we're like, okay, cool. So this could be somewhere where, we could do this, we can help this guy out, and he was willing to pay us and everything. So we were like, awesome. This is great. So, we ultimately, we dropped that whole hot college date thing, and then we started working on UCF Life. But then I think I don't remember too well what happened, but the guy became he kind of lost focus on that, and then he started doing other stuff, so that made us kind of lose hope on the site. So we stopped working on UCF Life and just started working on our own projects and stuff until one of my classes. I saw this guy over there working on a white laptop, and I was like, what is this? It looked like a toy to me until I actually looked over my shoulder and I see Chris. Okay, so the guy using the white laptop, of course, was Chris. And he had like a Rolodex going on with a bunch of people's numbers and contact information and stuff, and he was just spinning it around and stuff. And I didn't really know what it was from over the shoulder, but I thought it looked really cool. And I wanted to ask him about this goofy looking white laptop anyway, because it looked like a toy to me. And that's when I met Chris. And Chris went all Mac zealot, Steve Jobs priest. And I completely wanted to have a Mac. That was the best thing ever. I didn't care what, Chris, you had sold me on the Mac so well that I went ahead and I got rid of, not my main machine, but I got rid of several other machines I had at home at the time. It was like an AMD Duron and stuff like that. I had a bunch of other computers sitting around, sold everything, to get a G3, just like what you had, a G3. I think it was like an iBook G3 500 or something like that. Because you had completely sold me on the idea that Apple was the best thing ever. And so, actually, at the time, I didn't even know what what was it, airport? Yeah, airport card. I didn't know what that was, and apparently UCF was had the you could connect to their Wi-Fi, but I didn't know what that was during that time. I was connecting via Ethernet, so via the wire, and Chris is like, no, I'm already online, and check this out. This is called the airport, and the Mac has it, and I'm thinking Mac is the only computer the Apple is the only computer that had it. There's nothing else that has it. So yeah, that was really neat.
That was what Apple wanted you to think.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, no, Chris, that's when I met you, and from that point forth, I've same as you, Erica. I've never been able to be as focused as you, Chris. Like you've always, it's almost like, and I've described this to people before. Even now, like I tell people, yeah, I have this buddy, and whatever you think that I know, whatever you think that I know about computers, I know somebody else that knows way more than I do, and so I've always described you as like a Yoda. So always to this day, I still do. So yeah, that was, and I absolutely agree with that whole semester friend thing. I definitely thought you were going to be one of those semester friends where we hung out, one semester, maybe two, if that, and then that was it.
You're my only friend. You're my only friend from college now, because of that.
Yeah, same here. I don't know. I knew some other people through Greg, but then, that whole thing happened, and so then I kind of lost contact with everybody, except through Facebook and whatnot. But yeah, no, not you, Chris. We definitely we had that one moment where we knew of each other, but we weren't really talking a whole lot, and I'm definitely glad that I don't know if it was just retro computing or something like that, but something that kind of brought us back together, and then we decided to do this podcast and everything, and it's just been fun ever since. But I'm glad.
You needed space for a while. You had a rough time. You disappeared to Russia. You came back with your lovely wife, Katya.
Yeah.
People need their space once in a while.
Yeah, but I'm glad we're doing this again, and it's really fun, and yeah, man, it's and actually, Erica, for me, I saw your website a long time ago in Imagineer Studios, and I was like, whoa, I am not. I am not worthy, I'm not. When I saw your graphics and everything, I was looking at our stuff, and we had a lot of technical stuff going on in the background, but our front end completely didn't look anything like what you had. Your stuff reminded me of like Too Advanced, something that was really far out there, and I was just like, whoa, yeah. To me, that stuff was just awe-inspiring. So. Yeah.
So, you were in. We were talking about, yes, you being in college, and I think you were starting to lead into how you got to the career path that you're on today.
Yeah. So, I started working as a teacher, like a teacher. I was teaching Photoshop actually at the time, Photoshop and Illustrator. Actually, I graduated from UCF, and then I became a teacher. I did that for a little while, and Chris, I'll never forget when you told me that it was the whole people that can't they teach, something like that. I forgot how the whole saying went, but it was people that don't do teach or something, and I was like, I quit. So I quit being a teacher after I think it was 3 months or something like that I was doing it. I realized that I wasn't really getting anywhere. I didn't really want to do it. I wasn't into it, and so I quit. And I was looking for a job for a little while. I mean, a guy right out of college with barely any experience. It wasn't that easy to find the job that I wanted. But I did find a job working as a as a designer, as a magazine designer for Orange County, and I was taking pictures of all their housing projects and everything, and putting it all together in InDesign and creating that publication for them. I did that for a while. That was fun. It taught me a lot about photography and design and all that stuff. I got to use some of those Photoshop skills and everything, and then I felt like, wow, I'm actually doing. I'm not just teaching. So I did have to take a pay cut though to do that. But it was a lot more fun, and I didn't really owe anything to anybody. I think I was even living at my parents' house. Yeah, I was living at my parents' house at the time, so I didn't really owe anything. I was just making money. And then I started. Then I just decided that I wanted to go back to my hardware days. So I got a job as tech support for one company, and then I went to another company doing tech support, and ultimately I moved down to Fort Lauderdale doing tech support, and that's kind of what brought me down here was just doing tech support and doing going from job to job. You know, people that would I would see the prospect of, oh, okay, I'm getting paid more and I have a career path, so I'll go there. And so that's kind of what led me here. Even though I've kind of shifted from tech support, that's what brought me to where I am today.
That's quite a jump to go from dealing with users to specializing solely in Splunk.
Yeah. I didn't. After so many years of dealing with users and user issues and hardware and everything, actually, from the job that I switched to other jobs that I would switch, I would always get closer and closer to enterprise. And so until where I work now, which is purely enterprise, I had to deal with Dell Enterprise Solutions, HP Enterprise, and things like that, where I wasn't just working on just laptops and whatnot. I was actually working on servers, on telephony, Avaya systems and everything. So that I gradually shifted over from just doing user end stuff to more server centric things, and not having to be directly customer facing. So that led to that, which then led me to completely move out of that customer sphere and move into just like actually monitoring the server side, and then from monitoring that, then I started to work on logging all of that data, and then doing stuff with all of that data being spewed out by these huge servers. So servers, everything logs, right? So they didn't know what to do with this. They had a repository, and they didn't know what to do with all this data. And that's where I saw the opportunity, the Splunk opportunity. They needed a Splunk admin. Nobody knew it. And I just stepped up and said, hey, I have bandwidth at work. I don't want to just continue monitoring stuff. I actually want to do stuff with the data being monitored. And they gave me the opportunity, and they said, okay, learn it. We'll pay for it, and just have fun. And I did, and now I'm their lead admin in Splunk. So and now everybody, because of the jump to the cloud, everybody wants to log all their data in Splunk. So and now we have Splunk Cloud, and it's been great. So
that's really cool.
Thanks.
I guess I'll pick up from here, and I guess this is the final leg of my tale. So, was a web developer for 8 years, went Flash, PHP, got out of doing Flash because ActionScript 3 happened, and I didn't feel like learning how to do the exact same thing in a completely different way. So then went to PHP and had a few jobs doing that, and was passionate with that for a while. And then Ruby came out, and I didn't feel like learning how to do the exact same thing in yet a different way. But that whole seed that you planted, Erika, by giving me that Mandrake Linux disk, I was always playing with Linux after that. Going from Mandrake to Red Hat to OpenSUSE to many others. And even when I had my Mac, I was always playing with X11 on OS X and playing with all the Linux desktops before I finally switched to a Linux machine full time. And got a job where they were just a tiny company, and they wanted just an in-house web developer that turned into an in-house IT guy, which I kind of enjoyed doing IT there for a while. And also I had to set up their server and maintain their server, and of course I did all that on Linux. And after that, I went pretty much whole hog Linux admin, and then a bit after that, I somehow got into doing commercial IT, and quickly burned out on that, and then managed to go full-time as a Linux systems administrator, and have now yet another hobby that money is well on its way to ruining and wanting me to, I guess, one day get out of. So now I'm finding new passions, which it seems like my passion lately is not employable, and that's probably a good thing. Right now my passion is retro hardware and doing this podcast. And that's where I'm currently having the most fun right now. But I'm still always maintaining my own lab at home. I can't imagine life without my own home server running my own self-hosted services. So the passion is still there, in some form, but it's definitely not as laser-focused as it once was. And that's where I'm at today. How about you, Erika?
Yeah, it's... Gosh, passion is just it's an interesting thing. Like once you once you go into your 30s, it's really interesting how your energy and drive changes. I would say that I still play around with different hobbies. Definitely nostalgia. Oh my goodness, I love talking about nostalgic things like my childhood, which Chris is, of course, like, if you guys don't know, Chris is like my brother. Most of the nostalgia that I think of my childhood involves Chris. And doing things like this, talking about old hardware, talking about like old games that we used to play. That's definitely something that always, as one of my mentors would say, makes my ducky quack.
Was that Mr. Natalino?
No, actually, it was this crazy photographer guy who taught me a lot about photojournalism in the military. His name is Chip Morey. He also says, give it as freely as it's been given to you, talking about knowledge, of course. And that's one of my mottos I live by. Something I didn't mention was after I left the military, I went back to school. I got my bachelor's degree because I was really jealous of Chris having his bachelor's degree and seeing how awesome he was doing. So I'm like, I gotta get my bachelor's degree. I gotta catch up with my best friend because, he's kicking my ass here. And I was like, okay, while I'm at it, I might as well get my master's degree. So I ended up getting my master's degree. And fortunately, this time, like once I got out of school, I was actually a 4.0 student.
That's
unlike when I was in high school and when I went through school the first time, just completely undisciplined. And I could thank the military and my mentors for that, and also, of course, age and wisdom. And after that, I ended up teaching like Euro. I was teaching in the New Media Journalism and Public Relations program at Full Sail for their master's degree. They started a master's degree, and I was the only person who had the master's degree who actually had multimedia journalism and public relations experience. And from there, I learned how to deal with people, how to teach, how to prepare courses, how to do podcasts, how to talk into a microphone, how to hold good energy while you're having it. But something happened. My cousin, she graduated from medical school in Colombia. I decided to bring her up to America. It's her first time in America. And we decided to fly to New York to visit another cousin. This is my first time in New York. I was 30 years old. And oh my God, the energy of the city. It was amazing the way people dressed, the way people walked, the people that I talked to, everybody who knew their job so insanely well. Everybody who is here is like not a slacker. They are working 9-10 hours a day. They're coming home. They're doing like studying. You got to be the best of the best to survive. And that just motivated me. Also, the movie Hackers and Ghostbusters also motivated me to move to the city as well. Among many other things, but I ended up coming to the same philosophy that Euro did. Those who do, and those who don't, teach. So I think those are the exact words. I'm like, man, I've got to get back into the industry. I can teach like when I'm 50. That's cool. That when I'm done with everything and I actually have a legacy that I can look back on and I'm proud and I can, if I have kids, I could tell them proudly about like what I did for work. But, teaching for the rest of my life, I just couldn't see myself doing it. I'm a content creator. I want to move people. I want to put a dent in the universe, as Steve Jobs would say. I want to look back on my life and do something good for humanity. I think there's a great quote I just posted on Facebook the other day. It's like, be ashamed to die until you score a win for humanity. And that was by Horace Mann. And I think Neil deGrasse Tyson was the one who said that, and that's where I learned it from. But I know I'm going off on a tangent here. Forgive me, guys. Anyways, once I left, I moved here to New York. I was struggling for a while, but I knew something good was going to happen. I saved up a lot of money. I was freelancing, started working for the NFL, started working for Macy's. One thing led to another, and all of a sudden, I'm traveling. I'm on TV shows now. I'm on 2 reality shows, doing photography. I'm working with like tons of celebrities. I'm traveling all over the United States, all over the world. I've been to Paris. I'm going to Mexico in 2 weeks. I own a Hasselblad H5D, the envy of cameras for all photographers. And I'm just doing some really cool stuff. I mean, there's stuff that I wish I could be doing a little bit more of, but I found my art, I found my niche, I found my passion. I'm really good at it. I'm great with people, and I couldn't see myself doing anything else. Hobby-wise, yes, I could see myself doing other hobbies like rollerblading, so I could be cool like the guys in Hackers. But other than that,
Cool.
My life is pretty awesome right now. I can't complain. Things are good.
That's great.
Happy for you, buddy.
Well, thanks. It's because of my good friend Chris. I wish I had the privilege to hang out with you more. I did have some pretty good memories with you. I remember the first time I met you, and I went over to your house, that beautiful brick house.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I went into your room,
Yeah.
and you had I think you had a G3 tower there.
Yep.
I remember. Yeah.
G4,
yes.
Quicksilver.
Oh, yeah, G4 tower, forgive me. And I just remember you doing all these cool things. I'm like, oh man, I want to be like Euro. And I remember talking to you through Facebook.
Yeah.
And you're telling me one of your jobs, you're like, oh yeah, I just do technical support and I read Wikipedia all day. I love my job. I'm like, dude, that sounds awesome. I want to read Wikipedia all day.
Yeah.
And you seem really happy. I feel kind of bad because we had that long disconnect as well. But I can see that why you and Chris are really, really great friends. You guys have a lot in common. You actually have more in common with Chris than me and Chris. I think Chris is the yin and I'm the yang. We're so completely different, but man, our friendship is tighter than cement.
Well, I'm glad that this podcast has been able to get us all to come together again. And absolutely, Erika, I totally wish that we had all hung out more often together. To me, I had always, in your graphic realm and everything, I had always put you up on this pedestal, and I was like, It was almost like your graphics and stuff were untouchable, So yeah.
Oh, no. That's sweet of you.
But I definitely, I'm glad we're doing this now. It's never too late. So I'm glad we're able to do this and share these experiences and whatnot. And I mean, I definitely would like to do this more often with all three of us. So that would be great.
That
would be fantastic.
That will most certainly happen. This has been a load of fun. My face is sore from how much you two have had me smiling tonight.
Well, that's awesome.
But yeah, absolutely. I think we should do this more often together. That was fun, you know. And you know what? I mean, who cares if we're in different I guess different different realms of computing and doing different things. We can always find something to for us all to talk about together. So
there's overlap and they're all complementary. It works out.
Erika, I hadn't talked to you in a long time, and the first time when I saw your post about building that badass machine that you built, I was like, oh, I have to say something. Yeah.
She's still a nerd!
Yeah.
After all these years, she held on.
Yeah. So, cool.
I think that's the conclusion of our tale so far. What do you think, Euro? Is that the end of this podcast?
Yeah. That's where we're at now. That's we'll see where life takes us. I think we're going to continue growing and continue doing more things. So I'm excited to do another one of these in a couple of years. You know, so to see where we're at. Yeah, we should do this every once in a while to see where we're at in life.
What about you, Erika? Is there anything else What about you, Erika? Is there anything else that you want to add?
Well, I was wanting to share a story about how back in my days we used to put an onion on our belt. But I'll share that for another time. A little Simpsons joke for you guys. This has been great. I think my story's been told in a nutshell, the story of our friendship as well. And I think it'll be kind of nice to reflect and listen to this maybe 30 years down the road.
I think so. Well, then, that concludes episode 7 of the Fork Bomb podcast. Thank you, Euro. Thank you especially very much, Erika. This has been incredibly fun.
Yeah, thank you, Erika.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. It was definitely an honor and definitely a lot of fun.
Good night, everybody.
1, 2, 3, 4. And then I would put my hands on my hip I had a fucking cape behind me.